This is Rashawn Slater, first round draft pick for the LA Chargers, and you're listening to the Charged Up Bolts podcast. Bolt up.
G'day, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Charged Up Bolts podcast. It's a first in the era of this podcast. We are talking Los Angeles Chargers in the National Football League playoffs. Super excited. We're gonna talk about the highs and lows of the season. We're gonna get into the Jags game, but before we do all that, I'm going to introduce two of my amazing co-hosts, starting just 18 miles away over the River Crouch on the eastern borders of England in Essex. Dan King, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, yeah, not too bad. 18 miles, but like 80 minutes.
Yeah, it is indeed. John Ayres, how's it going, buddy, over there in Tejas?
The weather, much like the Chargers season, has been up and down here. The last couple days, it's been in the high 70s, low 80s, and whatever that is in your fake temperature rating, I don't know. And then today it dropped 20 degrees. So
wow.
So I don't really know what's happening, but you know.
Well, we've got super high winds here, not quite tornado or hurricane standards, which obviously plague the US, unfortunately, seasonally out there. But it's blowing a gale. I'm expecting all the trash cans to be over in the morning. But it was interesting. I came on air, folks. Those of you listening to this via the traditional Spotify or Apple, I was all there dressed in powder blue, came on air, and there's John and Dan in the dark royal blue jersey. So quick change parade for myself, and we're all in the same colours. Guys, we sat here 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, writing the Chargers off. Thankfully, we were all wrong, and we're happy to be wrong. How does it feel to be entering player football in the Justin Herbert era, John?
Well, it's pretty exciting. Should have been in the playoffs last year, but
Yep.
They kind of screwed the pooch late there. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to dwell on last year. You know, it is a testament. I know people want to say don't make injuries an excuse, but I think it is a testament to the team that the amount of injuries they suffered early on, that they did not give up, right? And I don't know if that has anything to do with you know, the coaching mentality or mentality of the players or whatever. It seems like the coaching staff has done a good job to keep them mentally focused for what it's worth on their part. So, you know, that's really exciting. You know, Herbert, you always have to hear, what has he won? What has he done? He's not, you know, he's never made the playoffs. He's done this, he's done that, blah, 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 blah. Right. So, you know, you don't love to hear that at all. So coming away with an entry into the playoffs, I think is really solid. The fact that they could get the number 5 seed, I think is got to be a morale booster. Because I sure as heck don't want to play in the first round against Cincinnati or Buffalo. I'd rather maybe take a lesser of two evils game in Jacksonville, and then work from there up to a more challenging in the next round if they make it through. So I'm pretty excited. Can't wait to see Herbert. Really excited that they got the Saturday night game. I was really worried they were going to give him the Saturday earlier game, which, you know, obviously West Coast coming East Coast, you want to have as much time to adjust to that time change as possible. It is on Saturday, which sucks, but at least they got him into the night game. So we got prime time, evening Herbert, you know, playoff Herbert, who we've never seen before, you know, just really excited about that.
Yeah, some good points there, John. I think we're all really buzzing. Den, how about you? How are you feeling?
Oh yeah, pretty excited. Again, I'm glad it's the Saturday game, just because I don't want to have to book Monday off work.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I will be staying up and watching all of these games, regardless of the time.
Yeah,
and with it being a 1 o'clock kickoff, I will keep myself up rather than get up early and watch it like a sane person. I will be staying up and watching it live. So I'm pretty excited that it's Saturday, going into Sunday morning for us. And yeah. I'm just pretty excited. It's been a few years without the playoffs. I think it's overall for the players. I think some of it has been quite deserved. I think less on the coaching side, maybe, but that's a different matter. How about you, Was?
I'm absolutely buzzing. You know, we set out from the offset, didn't we? Saying the minimum required for this team was to make the playoffs. They've done that. It's now up to them to go on and defeat Jacksonville. We've already failed once this season. We'll talk about the highs and lows shortly. But I think what John mentioned there, Dan, you're quite right. I think the coaching staff have made some gaffes this season. But on the other side of the fence as well, I think, John, you'll probably agree with me. I think other Chargers teams, maybe under the McNorv, either Norv Turner, Anthony Lynn era, would have probably capitulated by now and would have fallen by the wayside. And I just think that regardless of what's happened on the field with the offensive play calling, the fourth and Staley's, some of the defensive calling, some of the player issues, keeping players out of the field when they didn't need to be there. I think for all that, I think off the field, I think Staley's done an amazing job to galvanize the squad. You've only got to listen to what the players are saying behind the mic, what they're doing on social media. There is a togetherness there. There is a belief that they can go on and do better things. And I feel exactly the same as did going to Ravens game in 2018. Everybody wrote us off. Phillip Rivers is not mobile. He's this, that, the other. I'm hearing absolute nonsense this week that Herbert is a social media quarterback. I mean, if I've ever heard anything all my life, it is an absolute load of, and we've not seen Herbert play in the playoffs, but has he ever really let us down? No, he's played through arguably his hardest season, having those injuries. And if he was to sit down now and say, yeah, it was probably harder than his rookie season because no one expects a great deal of you. Whereas now we know what he can do. He's broken nearly every record there is to break during the first 3 seasons of a player's pro career. But the theme over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks has been giveth and take away. And here we go again. We've got Joey Bosa back. And then we're now looking at a Mike W. potential injury. That is a bit of a worry because while ever Herbert and Allen and Williams are on the field, that really does give us an added advantage, especially with the way Austin Eckler's playing this season. I mean, the fact that Austin is in the same conversation bracket as LaDainian Thompson in terms of what he's done this season is absolutely phenomenal. But, I'm super excited. I went to the store earlier on, got loads of goodies for Saturday. I'm going to dial in from sort of what will be early afternoon, your time, John, Saturday, and then for Dan and I, sort of late into Saturday evening, Sunday morning. And I hope I'm rubbing my hands at the end of the game. Before we get into that game, though, we're just going to have a quick rundown of our season, some highs and lows, just general. You can chop and change, guys, backwards and forwards. There's no set sort of agenda for this. It's what just reflecting on the regular season, just some of your highs and lows. Dan, I'll start with you.
Okay. First high, I guess for me, is the kind of development of some of the players who we wanted to see develop more. So, see someone like Drew Tranquill, since he got that green dot on the back of his helmet.
Amazing.
What was it, like week 3 or week 4? He's just stepped it up, and it's always there, rarely fails in a tackle. So that's been the first thing that came to mind was like,
John, has he been our best tackler this season? Tranquill, do you think?
I mean, I don't think so. Derwin James would be my liner on that.
Yeah. He's had the most tackles, but
he's had the most. Well, yeah. I'd say Kyle Van Noy has also been really sure-handed.
Oh, for sure.
When Kyle Van Noy has an opportunity to get his hands around somebody that are generally going down, or he's stopping them to their forward motion, and someone comes and helps them out. So I think those are a couple of guys who have been pretty sure-handed tackling. But yeah, I think I agree. Tranquill has been awesome. Go ahead, Dan.
I mean, Tranquill was the first name that came to mind, but you also see stuff like Josh Palmer stepped up when needed. Yeah, he wasn't consistent throughout those games, but for the most part, he was there. He was making catches, and yeah, it was just a relief in it almost to see that you're worrying. Oh no, all of these players are going down, but you've got some players there who are turning up, who are making plays. I think there's been some lows for sure. Obviously, the injuries are never going to be a highlight, are they? Seemingly always with the Chargers, they're a massive low light. And losing the players we did lose it sucked. But we're through the other side, hopefully. Slater designated to return. It's just Williams, really, man. And that's such an unnecessary situation. I think that's probably the other big low for me is there have been avoidable situations that we have put ourselves in. We've come through them, but we've put ourselves in some bad situations.
Yeah, John, what about your takes on the highs and lows of this, what's been a very turbulent season?
I'm going to start with something that felt like a low and turned into a high. And that's my hog mollies up front, my offensive line. Slater goes down. Pipkins is supposed to be our quote unquote reliable right tackle. Filer early on, you were seeing that he was just not having the same year, and Zion Johnson needed time to adjust the NFL, as most guards do. Okay, so you've got Corey Linsley as the only solid piece that didn't have question marks around him by week 3, right? And then they've somehow turned it around. Okay, Pipkins has turned into the right tackle that we all were hoping he would be one day. It took longer than probably most would have wanted or expected, but he has turned into a legitimately good right tackle in the NFL. Now, is he great? No. Is he top 10? Probably not. But is he a solid league average right tackle who can have good moments? Absolutely. And that's all we needed over there. We just needed not a turnstile, right? Because when we have the turnstiles over there between him and Norton and whoever else we threw on that side, it was a real problem. So having him shore up the right side was amazing. And then my boy Salyer, I mean, just the work he's done as a rookie stepping into left tackle. I'm starting to think playing left tackle as a rookie isn't hard. Between Slater's early success and Salyer's success, I mean, it seems pretty easy. I don't know. Anyways, but so I think he's really grown into his own. I know he's not perfect. Again, no, he's not a top tier left tackle. He's probably a mid-level or slightly below average. I don't know. He's at least average at left tackle. He's had a lot of help by the offensive play design and stuff like that, but he's done a great job. So I think the offensive line, which looked like it was headed towards a disaster early on, has really shaped up to become a pretty solid unit. They're definitely, especially the last 4 games or whatever, they've really been done a good job on the lines, opening up holes for the running game, which has been lackluster. So it was really nice to see that. Joshua Kelly, my guy, who I was on the train for early, then had to jump off the train and now fully back on. He's looked like the RB2, that we've needed. The guy who can come in, he can make some big yards here and there. Like, again, not going to rip off 70, 80 yard touchdowns, but he's going to come in and get those, anywhere from 4 to maybe 10 yard gains. And that's what you need. You need someone who can do that between the tackles, because you can't tax Eckler that much. He is amazing, but he is amazing when you're not running him between the tackles 30 times a game. That would just defeat the purpose of having someone like him. So I think that's been a big, and then Kyle Van Noy, I think, has been another revelation. Again, needed some time to adjust, but he has been in the second half of the season. I'd say Kyle Van Noy is one of the best defensive players we have. So, a lot of ups, a lot of downs here and there. Obviously the season reflects that, losing to some teams, getting blown out by some teams, being close with some really good teams. So it's very confusing. Heading into the playoffs, we only really beat one team with a record over 500. So that's again concerning for this team. But as a whole, they've come through a lot and they've won a lot of games that they needed to win to put themselves in position. So, again, it's been a roller coaster years as usual, I think. But still feeling hopefully pretty positive, with the exception of the Mike Williams news going into this Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going to echo some of those points. I think I'm going to start off with the negative. And that's our divisional record. Losing to the Chiefs twice by 3 points, I think really hurt. Obviously, we lost last week by 3 points to Denver when everyone expected us to win. Losing to the Raiders like we did, I think that's been a disappointing. We're never going to win the AFC unless we've got a commendable and a winning record, and that hasn't happened. Certainly not this season. I think the next low for me was seeing Justin Herbert getting injured. I don't care who you are. No team in the NFL can live without a player of Justin's quality. And we'll still never know whose decision it was for him to keep showing up every week, whether it was his or the head coaches or it was a joint venture. I don't know. He needs a medal. If there was a medal of honor given for bravery in the NFL, I think Herbert would have had 2 or 3 by now. But it's not what we want to see as a. And then when you add into the mix, like you said, John, with the fragilities and the turnstile of the offensive line, there's always those risks. And he's probably never going to fully heal until now. He goes away and prepares for the new season. So yeah, I think they
agreed. Until after he wins the Super Bowl, he's probably still going to be hampered by that. So
yeah, 100%. I think so. So they're the lows. I think the highs for me was Austin Ekeler. Absolutely amazing. I think he's been definitely the most consistent player on offense, if not the entire roster. And Sebastian Joseph Day, Kyle Van Noy have been absolutely amazing. Drew Tranquil. We haven't spoke about Mike Davis. I think he's done really well. He's PFF have graded him as one of the highest, or one of the highest grades for tackling on defense. I think he's played really well. There's been some good individual performances. People have stepped up when we didn't expect them to, and that's been good. But I think the biggest shout out. Did you know who the number 6 ranked special teams DVO is? LA Chargers. How about that? There was nowhere on earth we were going to break into the top 20, were we? But we've been there all season. The top 12, we elevated into the top 10. Now we enter the postseason as the 6th best special teams unit. And I know the Staley and the coaching staff work super hard, and there was still work to do with punting and coverage and stuff like that. But Dicker the kicker, he's going to get a mention. He's been phenomenal, and hopefully he can keep that going. As long as our season continues, hopefully we've got more games in the bag. But it has been a roller coaster again. Nothing's ever straightforward with the LA Chargers. I'm sure that everybody has seen the latest Chargers video where you've got all the main media stream commentators saying that the Chargers are cooked, they're done. We've seen nothing for them. You just adding fuel to the fire. I mean, we did it. We said they were done, but they've bounced back. It's been an interesting season. I would just like to see us addressing our AFC West record next year, but we've got a lot to talk about between now and then. It's time to reset. We're now heading to Florida to face a quarterback that came in as the first overall draft pick. If you look at, Jacksonville, if you look over the last 10 years, they've been awful. Us Brits have been forced to watch them live every year, and it continues. It is a privilege to watch.
I've been to a fair few Jags.
I've been to a fair few Jags games as well. I've probably seen Jacksonville more times than a lot of the US fans out there, but it is a privilege to watch the NFL over here.
Did catch a T-shirt from Jacksonville once.
You must have been sat right at the front.
Oh yeah. I think it was Jags Cowboys, which I'm pretty sure was a Cowboys win.
Yeah, you'd think that they would have made this game more UK friendly, given that they are one of the UK's teams.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, John, there's probably a lot. I don't know about Dan or Bez. I think Bez does a little bit more. I don't really get involved in the NFL UK scene. I certainly don't have the Sky Sports. I'll always watch the games live on Game Pass. So I'll always listen to the US commentary. Over here in the UK, Neil Reynolds, who's an official NFL reporter, is an English guy. They will cover the NFL from Sky Sports. It used to be with Kevin Cadle, the great late Kevin Cadle, and they do have some US ex players on there. But I generally don't get involved in the NFL UK scene. I haven't for about 2 or 3 years, to be honest. I was fed up with all the same old talk, the same old teams. But yeah, Dan, have you seen anything on the NFL UK chat? Is it?
So no, I also tend to watch on Game Pass. It's the easiest way to stay in touch over here because Sky Sports, they'll put on a couple of games a week, one game in each time slot. but it's so rare that that's the Chargers. But I would just say one of the people they have on Sky Sports coverage for NFL UK is Jeff Reinbold, who I don't know how he is as a coach, but he's great as an analyst. So there's at least that. And yeah, Neil Reynolds gets a bit of flack every now and then, but he knows his stuff. They're entertaining, but I've kind of drifted away from that era in favor of watching things on Game Pass.
100%.
It's just easier.
Interestingly, we actually got a chance to appear on the NFL pre-game show this weekend on Sky Sports. They want me or Bez to do a video before 12 o'clock tomorrow lunchtime, and it ain't happening because we haven't got time. So we've got the invite. We're not going to make the slot. But no, I prefer the US coverage, John, to be fair. It's as simple as that. I don't know, in terms of a Jags fan base, I don't know any Jags fans. All my family support different teams. I literally don't know any Jags fans at all. So
I do, but they live in Jacksonville. So it kind of makes sense.
A majority, because of their location in Florida, a majority of Jaguars fans are actually from Alabama because it's right there.
Yeah.
So, and if you know anything about the American education system, that should tell you all you need to know about Jaguar fans.
Yeah. Well, actually,
I did see them run the flags out on the field, and it spelled out Jaguars. So, I get it.
I've actually worked with the Alabama National Guard as well.
Sorry.
I do know. And I do. So also, I'm doing my friend Cy Williams a disservice because he's a big Jacksonville Jaguars fan. So forget everything I said. I know one Jags fan, but no, I think the talk of the town, John, is Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence. I've seen some clips on social media this week about who people think is the best. I don't care. In my opinion, Herbert's the best quarterback in the league. I just think he's amazing. And that's going to be the narrative now until, these teams get eliminated. Obviously, Joe Burrow's there, but does it really matter what everyone else thinks? I think that all that matters here and now is what the Chargers fans think, and everyone else is white noise. I mean, so let's get into it. So Trevor Lawrence hurt his toe in week 18, hasn't practiced fully this week. John, precaution, is he generally injured? What's your take on the situation at the moment?
So obviously scouting reports, I was actually just looking for the latest on that. So I don't know. So there's no practice at all this week. I believe they're flying out on Friday. Have you seen the confirmation on that? I believe they're flying out Friday.
Yeah.
Probably early morning, afternoonish, so that they have plenty of time overnight to get adjusted and in the morning get adjusted to the game. So I believe Friday is a fly day. So today would have been the last day that Williams could have practiced, right? Did not show up on the open portion, have not seen him. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to play, right? Popper mentioned that he talked to Brandon Staley on like Monday or Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. And he said that, is it a realistic scenario that Mike Williams doesn't practice at all this week? But still is a full go for Saturday. And Staley said, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So I don't think him practicing at all, not practicing this week at all, means he's definitely not going to play. I think it's still up in the air. I would have liked at least a limited today, because that would have given me the confidence that he is progressing and ready to go. I mean, chances are they're just going to varsity blues it and stick a giant needle in his back and say, let's go play. I mean, that's just the nature of professional sports these days. If you're a high paid athlete and you got to be out there, you're just going to fill your body with drugs, whether that's the right thing to do or not. I don't know, for players' health and safety, but that's likely what's going to happen. So, my worry just in general now is that, how much are we getting from him? Right. I had a little discourse with somebody on Twitter about like health and reasons. They said, hey, you know what? It's better that, he's like, I can't believe they did that. And I said, I can't believe you do that. It's, let him get injured. That is irresponsible. And they're like, well, it's like, well, like it's a football game. It could happen in any game. I'm like, yeah, but it happened in a meaningless game. Like if you had just sat him or only let him play a couple drives, like you would in a preseason game, and then take him out, and then he plays in the playoffs, that's more important. And he's like, well, what if he could get into the playoffs? I'm like, yeah, he could. But I would right now tell you, I would take a 100% healthy Mike Williams for half a game than a 40%, 50%, 60% Mike Williams for maybe the whole game. You got back contusions, something like that. A bad hit to your back, he's, or a hard landing. And, Mike Williams is not the kind of guy who stays on his feet. Mike Williams is on the turf a lot. So, I mean, if he is legitimately hampered by this injury, I wouldn't expect him to make it through the whole game. I think there's going to be at least one jump ball, and I'm sure he'll make the catch. But he's going to come up with his hurt back, and he's probably not going to play the rest of the game or play limited the rest of the game. I think best case scenario, you're probably looking at 60% of the offensive snaps for Mike Williams. And I think that's probably best case scenario. I don't think you see him a ton out there. I think he's interchanged out with Palmer and other players to make sure he gets, make sure he's going in and out and he doesn't hurt himself. But you're not going to get full 100% Mike Williams. So, it is a concern. I still have hope and belief he's going to play. The energy seems to be that he is going to play, even though he's injured. But no practice at all this week would really, really have just one limited practice would have really helped my concerns. So honestly, we're just going to have to wait and see till Saturday.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Trevor Lawrence on the other side, limited with a toe injury that he picked up on Sunday. I mean, he's had a great second half to the season. 15 touchdowns and 1 interception in the last sort of 9 regular games. Chargers are -2.5 for this one. The over/under is 47.5 because the Jags come into this 9-8. We're coming to this 10-7. Dan, is it a concern if you're Jaguars? Is it a concern that your QB1 is injured? It's a toe injury. We've seen players play with turf toe before. Does that give us a bit of an edge, especially now Joey Bosa's back?
We've seen players play with turf toe well. We've seen players play with turf toe and play badly. I mean, apart from like Gates's plantar fascia, whatever it is, the foot injury, he had turf toe quite a few times, I remember, and didn't always look great when he did. It's got to be a slight concern, at least. I just wonder how much of it is legit and how much of it is just, he stubbed his toe and now he's still recovering when really he'll be fine. I fully expect he'll play. I think I would have that slight concern, though. I think going into a game of this kind of magnitude, you're always going to have some concerns about any little injury. And as John mentioned, Mike Williams being the big one for us there. I'm excited to see what happens either way. I don't even know who's their backup quarterback. Is it CJ Beathard? Is it Beathard in Jacksonville? Or CJ?
Do you know what?
I think yeah. I'm on it now. Depth chart. Yeah, CJ Beathard.
It's interesting
we can hope it's CJ Beathard.
It's interesting with Trevor because he's obviously led Jacksonville well on offense. They're ranked 9th in DVOA. And they've got ETN, who's a
Travis
quality
Etienne
coming out the back. I liked him in the draft. Unfortunately, we weren't going to get him, but I do from a mentality standpoint. I was listening to Sebastian Joseph Day the other day, and I think it was on one of the All In episodes, and he says he's taking it personal that we allegedly can't stop the run. So that'll be interesting to see who's shaping up against.
There's no allegedly about it. We cannot stop the run.
Well, look, at the end of the day, we've improved. We can slow it down. Joey Bosa's back. I mean, one of the positives of last week's defeat was Bosa getting his sack. That just gives him
even if it was him just falling.
Well, it's registered, isn't it? It's just that mental thing. I've got a sack on my belt, but I think Trevor's going to get a lot of heat. I think there's a question posed on Twitter earlier on. Can Brandon Staley bring some juice with defense on Saturday? I believe he can. I think our defense has really stepped up in recent weeks. I think Derwin James will be fit and healthy, raring to go as well. We got Mike Davis as being absolutely outstanding. People are going to want to make their mark, John. And don't forget, we spoke about free agency in the last week's show. People are going to be playing for contracts. Now, people, you can say what you want. If somebody's stepping up to earn more money next season, that's only a good thing because we want to progress as far as we can. Our goal now is to win this wildcard game and move on to the next one. But it's interesting when we talk about the actual injury report. Other Jacksonville Jaguars of note: Brandon Scherf, abdomen, offensive lineman. That's interesting.
He's the guard, right?
And Kendrick Pryor as well. He's limited with his shoulder, so and then they've also got the kicker issues as well with Riley Patterson, right knee. So Jacksonville, they're going to have their own concerns coming to this one, but it goes without saying the Chargers have got to do what we do best, and that's try not to shoot ourselves in the foot. I mean, what's what some of your matchups that you're looking forward to, John, in this one?
Obviously I'm going to be really interested to see how the offensive line handles the defensive line of the Jaguars, how they handle the pass rush. That's obviously the biggest thing for me. But really, I really want to see Justin Herbert. I have one low key concern, and again, it's not like, oh my God, he's going to suck. My concern is sometimes in big games, I've noticed he gets a little bit overamped and a little overexcited, I think, when the game begins. And you see him early on in these games, like overthrowing receivers or kind of missing his mark or throwing it really hard for no reason. Like it just seems to be something that happens. So obviously being his first playoff game, he's hyped up, he's excited, he wants to go win. I worry that he might come out a little bit overly excited and need to settle down. So hopefully he can keep his nerves under and get that going. But I really do want to see this offense really shine. That's my biggest thing is Joe Lombardi has had excuse after excuse. And honestly, if they try to blame this Mike Williams injury on it, I'm going to say, well, you caused it, so I don't want to hear it. But like they have as full of a squad as they've had all year. And I'll tell you right now, they've had a more full squad than some offenses have had throughout the whole season in other teams. So I don't want to hear that that he cannot manage to run an offense without all these guys, right? Like, yes, there were a few games where he definitely was working with 4-string wide receivers, whatever. Like, you got to do what you got to do. And I get when those games were, not the best games and they were really conservative and yada, yada, yada. This is the playoffs, right? There's no, play conservative, play it close, see what happens. No, it's go for the throat, right? If Herbert and the offense can put pressure on them and keep scoring, that's a huge thing for me. So I'm really interested to see how Herbert handles the pressure, how he handles, the game. And if they take an early lead, which has happened frequently this year, how they handle the early lead, right? Do they go back and say, okay, we've got the lead, let's all settle down, let's just hand off the ball, stick routes, we're just going to play conservative and try to bleed out this clock with our defense? Because if they do that again, they will lose. So really, really interesting.
But that is playoff football, isn't it? Get the lead and sit on it. I think we'll see more teams opting to be conservative than not. And I do worry that we'll see that happen.
But getting a lead and sitting on it is why you end up with teams who, look like the Falcons, who look like they're in complete control in the first half of the Super Bowl and then lose in the second half. Why? You get complacent, you get conservative, and before you know it, it's a game again. And now you got to try to ramp your team back up when you've kind of killed their, in a sense, momentum. The teams that have always done well are the teams that will continuously keep the pressure on, right?
Yeah,
the Chiefs never give up.
You just took the words right out of my mouth.
There's a reason they're perennial champ.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they're always in the playoffs and almost always in the AFC Championship game, right? Andy Reid, an amazing coach. And what does he do? He says, no, we don't stop. We continuously try to score because you never know when the other team's going to get hot. A touchdown here, a tipped pass that turns into a pick six, and
exactly.
A blown coverage bomb, and all of a sudden a 21-point lead is nothing, right? These things can happen in the NFL.
A tipped pass is a thing we know a thing or two about this year.
You talk about the Falcons. Look at the Bills in their first Super Bowl appearance. What happened there? And we actually saw the Falcons live blowing a 20-point lead to the Lions at Wembley Stadium. And
that was an interesting one.
It was an interesting one. It's John, you're absolutely right. It's so easy to do in the NFL. It's a week-to-week game, and it's also a quarter-to-quarter game because historically, as we know, the Chargers have been terrible in the third quarter. And
for Mike Williams, it's a day-to-day game.
It is, but I think we have to go for it. There's no point in being conservative whatsoever. It's going to be an interesting test. I mean, Doug Peterson, he's won a Super Bowl, and and he's really developed Walker Little at left tackle. You know, we talk about our own rotational problems up front in the trenches. Jacksonville have had theirs. John, you've already mentioned Jacksonville's defense. You know, Josh Allen, he'll be chomping at the bit to make a mark and you know, put the grind into Justin Herbert. Dan, what about yourself? What are you looking forward to seeing in
the there's one matchup I quite want to see, and that is to see if they do put Rayshon Jenkins on Keenan Allen. I think that'd be an interesting one. Just for like bitterness reasons, I guess. I didn't think Jenkins was amazing or anything, but he's done fairly well in Jacksonville, and they obviously will know each other quite well. So,
that to be fair, that's a decent shout.
Because he had a good game a couple of weeks ago. I think Jenkins he got a pick right at the end of the game to bring the victory to Jacksonville. I forget who it was they were playing, but I'm also looking forward to seeing if we can run the ball. John rightfully touched on the O-line, and I think again more often than not, playoff games come down to the lines. But if we can make room for Eckler to get going, then I'd like to see us actually get Eckler going. Because when we run over, like if we have a running back go over 45 yards total or something in a game, we've only lost once this season. And that was a close one to the Chiefs. So like, just get 45 yards, just be balanced. That balance it tends to work for us. It works for most teams.
It does.
So I just want to see us get going on the ground.
I'm interested to see how the actual Jaguars deal with, or Jaguars, as you guys say in the States, how they deal with Austin Eckler, because few teams in the league have been able to do it this season. I think Austin is just running on pure muscle, momentum, tenacity, bravery, whatever you want to call it. He's been amazing. And whether or not that Jacksonville have got it in their locker to actually slow him down, but he's multifaceted. You stop him in the run, he's gonna catch the football. So I think that for me is going to be an interesting one. Going back to Herbert, John, that catch by Mike Dubb 2 weeks ago when that missile was going out the stadium and Mike Dubb put the arm up. Yeah, I think that's just a little bit of his immaturity. And I've been thinking this week, I wonder if Philip Rivers has been on the phone to him just to give him a bit of advice and guidance. He probably may not need it. I don't know if that's a thing in the NFL. I know in other sports that will happen, especially with Philip, with his amazing connection as our franchise QB for so many years. But I think Herbert, this is the time for the next 2 days to sit with Herbert as a QB coach in the QB room and say, just tone it down a little bit. Try not to get too excited. You can't help his enthusiasm, though, can you? He's a very, very enthusiastic player. And then, John, we've got the other matchup I'm looking forward to is the relative rookie in Brandon Staley against Doug Peterson. I mean, you've already mentioned Andy Reid. Andy Reid's already defeated Brandon Staley. Is it 3 times out of 4 meetings? It's whether or not Doug Peterson starts really digging into his expertise and his experience, and whether he can outshine Brandon, and whether or not Brandon can, come back with something different to get us out of a jam if that's the case.
Well, I'll say this one thing that I don't think actually happened, and not that there's an ill, is the Philip Rivers calling Herbert. There just seems to have been some sort of a stressed kind of ending to that relationship, and the fact that they never brought him back for some sort of like a goodbye ceremony or acknowledgement, really, that was official and like celebrate. Like, it just feels like there's some sort of disconnect between Rivers and the front office. So I don't think Herbert has had a lot of contact with Philip Rivers, to be perfectly honest. I just don't think that's a thing. More likely actually would be probably Drew Brees. He's really formed a relationship with Herbert. Obviously Lombardi and Brees have a good relationship. And I'm sure Sean Payton is, dealing behind the scenes to make sure his future quarterback is well taken care of in his first playoff run. So just kidding. Not really. Just kidding. But yeah, so I'm hoping that he's got some sort of mentor who's got playoff experience can help him with that. The rest of it is pretty spot on. I think it's pretty accurate. I have similar feelings. It's just it honestly, there's a lot going on, right? It wouldn't be Chargers football if it was a simple, hey, we've played well, we made the playoffs, now we're playing this team. Like if it was that ABC simple, it wouldn't be Chargers football. Let's be honest. It's got to have all these question marks. It's got to have all these little ins and outs and what's going on here and what happened here and this cloud hanging over here, this thing over here. So honestly, I think as Charger fans, we have to be happy to thrive in the chaos. So I'm just trying to thrive in the chaos. And honestly, if you follow me on Twitter, I don't necessarily recommend it, to be honest. But if you do follow me on Twitter, my tweets have been pretty frenetic and up and down, right? A lot of me questioning whether Staley should even be the coach anymore. Some of me thinking, hey, Staley's done some good things. Me being hyped about the game, being depressed about the game. The only consistent is basically #fire Lombardi or Lombardi out, I should say. So that's the only consistent thing I've got going on right now on Twitter. So, but that's just how Chargers football is. I think it's just ups and downs, and you just got to navigate that. And thankfully, this team has navigated the ups and downs of the season to get to this point.
Yeah, agreed. Nothing ever. There are certain franchises out there where things just seem so turbulent, and we're certainly one. It goes back to what we said about half an hour ago. There's a lot of neutrals out there. I think 60% of the Athletic.com's beat writers have predicted Jackson will win. But so what? I think if we were fortunate enough to sit in the Chargers locker room right now and say who's going to win, starting off with Derwin James, he's only going to say one thing: the Los Angeles Chargers. So Jordan Schultz said last week prior to the Denver game, the Chargers are a team that nobody wants to play. And he's only one of the few people that I've heard say that. And he said, I'm not just saying it because I'm on this podcast, but there's going to be a lot. If we win on Saturday, there's going to be an awful lot of people eating humble pie. But I don't really want us to win it for the bragging rights. I just want us to win it because I want to see Chargers football go on a nice playoff run, and see what happens. It's way too early to be talking about the Super Bowl. We've got to get through the first quarter, see how that goes, and play every quarter as it pans out. Third quarter, guys, are we going to perform? Are we going to come out of the locker room at halftime with some juice, or are we going to fold and regress into our shell? Dan, what do you reckon? You're scratching your beard there, like you're not convinced.
No, I am convinced. We're going to play well. We're going to play well the entire game. Let me just say, the Chargers haven't lost a wild card playoff game since 1995. We're coming out of that locker room at halftime and we're playing well. What's going to happen? One of us needs to be overly optimistic, right? Bez isn't here to say that we're winning.
Bez isn't here because I don't know if anyone's aware, he's in Lancashire and they don't have electricity on a Thursday night in the second week of January. But no, we'll come to predictions later. But you've got to be optimistic. There's no point in sitting here and saying that we're not going to, we're not going to prevail. We're not going to be victorious in Florida. I still pinch myself that we're actually playing Jacksonville because, as we said, Jacksonville have been one of the most poorly run, poorly coached, poorly fielded franchises in the league for a long time. So for their fans, they're on a bit of a high. John,
just to jump in before going to John there, I was reading. I think it was Greg Rosenthal of NFL said had noted that at the end of the Jags game in Week 18, they needed the comeback to get to the playoffs, and it was the defense that got them there because the offense just completely stumbled. And I'd like to think that that'll make for an interesting game. We've got a healthier than ever defense, and their quarterback is coached by Mike McCoy. So, I'm fairly hopeful there. I don't want to get beaten by Mike McCoy.
I mean, look, the Jaguars have had their own problems. They lost to Texans, the Colts, and Denver, sandwiched in between. The middle of that was with the Giants, from weeks 6 to 8. So it's not been plain sailing for them, and they, like us, have turned things around. John, back home, obviously in Texas, what's the word on the street there amongst the neutrals? What's everyone thinking there about this matchup?
So I think it's hard to say. What exactly the vibe is? I mean, obviously the national pundits, as we mentioned before, are all anti-Chargers and anti-Herbert for some reason. They want to, they're trying to ascend this Trevor Lawrence guy, probably because they made so much hype around him. Most pundits thought he was a safe bet to put all their eggs in that basket, and then the first year was pretty bad. So the fact that he's jumped back this year makes everybody feel like, oh, he's the guy that we weren't wrong. See, we weren't wrong. So I think maybe there's a little bit of that. And yeah, I think a lot of people, especially the common fans, seem to be jumping on the 38-10 loss in the beginning of the season. I think that is, I agree that is a big major thing that people are looking at and going, look, they already got trounced. Right. Maybe they had a few guys out, which I've heard that before. They had a few guys out, but still 38-10 is a pretty bad beating. I'm like, few guys is like, oh, our CB2 is maybe out for the game. And maybe we lost a wide receiver 3 and, a couple random, maybe one linebacker. Like that's a few guys. We had premier pieces out, premier guys out, and we're still trying to figure out our, what the situation was. So, I don't buy that narrative. People I know are trying to slander the Chargers for their record against winning teams, which obviously is not good. And the fact that they've lost to the Broncos and the Raiders in the season, the Mike Williams injury. So it seems like there is a lot of faith behind the Jaguars. However, I will say that that I think Vegas is telling me a different story, because the line, which started pretty close to even, which would actually mean that the Chargers are favored, right? Because the home team always gets like 1 or 2 points, right? Yep. Or sometimes 3, sometimes a full field goal, depending on the game, right? So the home team usually gets a couple points. So the fact that it was even was already saying that Vegas kind of believed the Chargers were the better team. And then and money came in on the Jaguars, obviously, because they saw even, that's pretty good odds. We can tease that in a parlay, add a couple extra points on our end, blah, blah, blah. Well, the line is, I think, at 2.5 now.
2.5
minus 2.5 for the Chargers. So that means that all the money's been coming in on the Chargers, so they have to move that line out, because now Vegas has to, try to mitigate whatever damage might be done if the Chargers are able to come and win. Because to be honest, 2 points, 2.5 points when you're betting, what the heck does that mean, right? It's not going to be a tie. Right, the chances of being a 1 or 2 point game is pretty low. It's more likely if you get 3 points or more, that's when you're like, okay, there's a real thing here. So I still think it's closer to a pick'em, but I think the fact that I think Vegas saw that there was too much coming in, and the sharps are saying, hey, I'm comfortable putting my money on the Chargers. So I think, to me, I'd rather trust Vegas and the sharps and all those who are betting over the Jaguars fans and whoever wants to be whoever wants to be a low-key Jaguars fan and whoever wants to hate on Herbert, whatever.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's an interesting one, because, Jacksonville had that 40-14 crushing defeat to the Lions. Then they're going to drop 40 on the Cowboys in that big shootout there. So I just think people, as you said, those two scores, John, with the fact that what the Jacksonville Jaguars did against the Chargers early in the season, and the fact they got home advantage, is giving people that edge. But that's just noise. It's minus 2.5 for a reason. I think we're going to win. Dan, are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, as John mentioned, take into account the Western team traveling east. It never seems to go well, but yeah, I'm fairly optimistic. I'm at least more optimistic of a win than I am pessimistic of absolutely just being awful.
We're gonna win, guys. What's your predictions? I'll start with you, Dan.
24-10 Chargers.
Woo,
nice
love
and
it.
Simple there. Close game.
Ooh.
Loving it.
Yeah.
Get Trevor Lawrence early and stand on his toe. Get those cleats right on the end of his big toe.
No, we'll play fair. We'll play hard but fair.
Go on, John. Is John there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got him.
Sorry, I just had a little. Just a connection kind of like dipped out for a second. So I like the aggressive and bold call. I think, it's just the whole like, hey, the Chargers defense is a different defense and the offense is going to shine. I like it. I'm going to go with a slightly more competitive game. And I'm going to say 27-23. So I can see the Jaguars mustering up a couple touchdowns, but then kind of the defense really holding its own and holding them for some field goals after that. And I can see the Chargers putting up 27 points on this team because I don't think their pass defense is really that great. So I think they have an opportunity to really kind of light up this team, assuming everything's playing properly. So I think 27-23. I think it's close, but I think the Chargers lead the whole way. I mean, unless they get unless their Jags get win the toss and they get a field goal or something early. But I think the Chargers probably lead most of the game, and I think they get 27. Another big stat I've seen is that Herbert's 18-4 when his defense holds team to less than 27 points. So I think if they're going to win,
I like that.
it's. So one of the things I was thinking about is if they're going to win this, which I do believe they will, or at least I hope they will. I don't know. Believe, hope, whatever. I think they're going to have to hold them to under 27 points. So I think 27-23 sounds about right. 2 touchdowns is about right for the other team. So, but we'll see.
I'm really liking that. So I've got a bold prediction before we actually go to the score prediction. Keenan Allen is going to get a juice, going to break the postseason franchise record for touchdowns. Austin Eckler's going to get a juice. Chargers are putting up 35. We're holding Jacksonville to 21. I'm sat in a Derwin James jersey, as you are, John. And behind me on my chair is Joey Bosa's jersey. It's a sign. We're going to see some sacks. Oh, and we've got another Joey Bosa jersey. Yeah. We're going to see some sacks from Mac. We're going to see some sacks from Bosa. We're going to bring some juice, interceptions, pressure, consistency, and a good third quarter. And we're going to put the Jacksonville Jaguars to bed, and we don't have to ever hear about them again until we go to Wembley next season, Dan. John, where are you watching the game on Saturday? Are you staying at home? You got a watch party or anything like that?
Yeah, a bit of a watch party. Not a big one or anything. I got a buddy down maybe 30 minutes from me. So we're going over. I'm making my famous oven-baked buffalo wings in 3 flavors. Got to have a 3-flavor wings. With bones, by the way, because if they don't have bones, they're just chicken nuggets. Let's all be real here.
Yeah.
So I'll be making my wings, probably some guacamole or something. And he's going to be barbecuing. So, we'll have a whole thing set up. Everybody's going to be in jerseys, his family, my family, the dogs. Everybody's putting on their Charger jersey. It's going to be a big thing.
Don't forget to get tweeting out, and we'll obviously get for social media. Dan, what are you doing early hours Sunday morning for you and I?
Yeah, well, I will spend Saturday evening streaming Pokemon as I tend to do. Wrap up around midnight and then get myself comfortable on this sofa right next to me and watch on the TV. Everyone else will be in bed, so I will be relying on the Twitter folk and the Bolt fam to kind of carry me through. But hopefully, we'll have an exciting enough game that I won't be able to look at Twitter. I'll be glued to the TV.
Well, I'm going to be sat at home. I said to my good lady wife, if you're not watching the game, if you're not staying up, I'd put some earplugs in because I'm going to be shouting dirty fries, dirty nachos, something to drink. I've not decided yet. Probably, I don't know, ginger beer or something like that. And we're going to be rocking and rolling. I cannot wait. It's Friday tomorrow. And then we've got one more sleep. And then we are on it. Guys, where can we get you on socials?
As always, you can get me at Adroid Airs, #Audible Chocolate, #Lombardi Gout.
You can find me at UKLA Chargers. Just a small plug for my streaming. It's at Blue Emolga. And you can find us on YouTube at Charged Up Bolt and #BoltUp.
Don't forget to follow Bez, not paid his electric bill this week, at Bez the Spaniard. Charged Up _ Bolts and Charged Up Pod. We'll be back next week, hopefully, to discuss the victory. If not, we'll be recapping anyway. Fingers crossed. Wherever you're listening, enjoy. Be positive. Try not to bite too many of your nails off. Breathe. Nice and steady. Stay calm. Herbert's going to get the football. We are going to win. Thank you for tuning in. And bolt up.